to see what is actually Windows Azure. We've seen that it is a platform as a service solution, but let's see a little bit in more detail. Actually, there are three important things that you need to understand about Windows Azure. The first one is related to the components. Actually, we have several components. The basics are provided by Windows Azure itself, which is what I've called the cloud operating system. And here you have three major things. You have computing power available, you have storage available, and you have management, because obviously you need to manage both computing power and storage. Now, here's a very nice one. The storage is non-relational. And now, it's a good thing to mention one of the most heated debates that go on in the industry today. It's SQL versus NoSQL. Okay? Most of us have graduated from faculties or universities where we were taught about the relational data model. And we were taught that how everything revolves around the relational data model. Well, it turns out that there are other models, other data models, that scale way better than the relational data model. Building today a database with, say, 10 billion records, a relational database, well, it's not an easy task. Storing 10 billion records in a cloud computing storage is way easier. Okay? Don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating NoSQL over SQL. Just as a side note, the course I'm teaching here as a university is relational databases. Okay? So just to put things into perspective, okay? I'm not advocating NoSQL, but we need to understand that a non-relational storage model has certain advantages over the relational one. And in the meantime, the relational storage model also has advantages over the non-relational one. Because if you need to get better at something like at scalability, you will lose other things. Like, for instance, referential integrity, for example. Okay, but I will talk a little bit more about that. If you want relational data in the cloud, then SQL Azure is for you. SQL Azure is the relational database in the cloud. Finally, the third major component is the Windows Azure App Fabric. The App Fabric is an application execution environment which gives you all the building blocks for the more complex things like connectivity, like caching, like access control. Okay? Let me give you just a very simple example. Right? You have your own network, and you have your own usernames, your passwords, which are stored in your network, and everything works fine. Now you start building a solution in the cloud. At some point, you will want your local credentials to work in the cloud. Now, that's where things get very complicated. Because identity management through different domains is not an easy task. And you need to do some very heavy lifting in order to make that work. I'm not going into detail because that's, I think, one day's topic. So these are the components. The second important thing about Windows Azure is the developer experience. And to many people's surprise, we're not limited here to Microsoft technologies. Sure, you can do with Visual Development, with Visual Studio, and with the traditional development languages on the Microsoft platform, like C#, like VB.NET, C++, whatever, F#, and so on. But you have full support for stuff like Java, for stuff like PHP, for stuff like Ruby, and so on. So basically, your applications can be developed in any of these supported languages and development tools. The third one is interesting from the point of view of productivity. Developing for cloud computing for Windows Azure works almost seamlessly on premises and in the cloud. What I'm trying to say here is that you have a full local cloud emulator on your development machine that enables you to test your software, to test your components before deploying them to the cloud. And there are at least two reasons why that's very important. The first one is it's faster. Okay? To do stuff like unit testing on your local machine is way faster than deploying everything to the cloud and so on. Not to mention that there is cost involved. The second one is one that is more important. There's no debug in the cloud. Okay? So when you have your solution deployed in the cloud, there's no debug available. That's a very interesting discussion in itself. And it gets you into some topics which are just wonderful. Okay? What would be one reason why there's no debug there? It's because everything is load balanced. It's because your stuff can run on one machine, or can run on 2 machines, or can run on 100 machines, or even on 1,000 machines at the same time. Now the question is, if I want to debug, to which one of these machines should I connect? It's non-deterministic. So there's no debug. Does that mean that I don't have any way to control what my application does? No, not at all. I have several other technologies that are available for me in order to be able to overcome this issue. So this would be Windows Azure.